On this presentation, we will be addressing on how to run 123Sync in the background. This presentation is aimed to 123Sync 2014, which is our version 16 of the product. In this presentation, first we're going to look at the 123Sync background architecture, or just the system architecture. Then we're going to set up a Windows service and show how to configure and how to troubleshoot any issues you may have to Windows service. And then we're also going to set up the system tray, so you can actually run a sync on the Windows system tray. And we'll address general items about troubleshooting any 123Sync issues that you're in the background, and just provide you the tools on how to figure it out. The first piece we're going to address is our 123Sync engine. This is an engine that does all the synchronization. And the engine is called 123Sync svc-x.exe, and the X is the number of the act build. So if you're running build 15.1, the X would be 15.1. So this is the integral part that does all the synchronizations in 123Sync. So this sync engine, it can be accessed from the Windows Start menu, and you do that by running 123Sync interactively, or by the Windows services. The Windows services is basically a timer that wakes up and then runs the sync engine at regular intervals. And if your system is up 24/7, the Windows service will run a sync 24/7. We also have a methodology where you can actually add the sync to the system tray. So when you log into the system and you open Windows, on the system tray you'll have the sync, and then the sync will run in the background on the system tray. And finally, last but not least, really you can run 123Sync from just about any task manager, batch processing, Windows scheduler, desktop shortcuts. Just add that, call this file, and the file resides on the program files for 123Sync, and then just run it. It's can be accessed from anywhere. As long as it's properly set up to begin with, it will run. So to capitulate, all you need to run the 123Sync engine is to know the name of the sync engine for your act build, which is 123Sync svc-x, and could be the 15.1, and then just know where it's installed. And in general, it's installed on the C program files 123Sync 2014, and then just call that from any program that you want, and 123Sync will then run. So before you run the background sync, just a couple of things. Make a backup of Act and Outlook, just to be safe. We do create some data into the contact body text and activities that the users may not like, or they may want it modified. So by making a backup, you can always restore it to the original state and then resync, no problem. Also make sure that the sync runs interactively. If you get any prompts from Outlook or from the system or security questions, anything like that, the same thing will run in the background, and the background will not run. So if you run interactively and it runs fully through, then you are ready to run it in the background. And the background processing is equivalent to the interactive mode, but it requires no user interaction. All the prompts are answered either yes or okay, includes in the last screen when you get it interactively, where it asks you to synchronize. Everything's assumed that you want to go forward and do it. First, we're going to deal with the 123Sync service. The name of the service that you'll see on the service panel is called 123.sync.svc. You need the appropriate permissions to install it. If you don't have the proper permissions, the service will either not appear on your services panel, or it will simply not work. That means your system manager has told you that you are not able, or you're incapable of actually installing a service, and will not allow you to do it. So contact your systems manager or your Windows expert and just get yourself the appropriate permissions in order to run. When you're using Outlook as a transport, security service may block the 123 sync service from running 123 sync with Outlook. We have seen that happen, and you either need to configure 123 sync service or the security system to allow us to run properly, or you need to run it on the system tray as your current user. 99% of the failures of our installation of 123 sync are from incorrect passwords. It's unbelievable the number of support calls we get from people saying, "Oh, it doesn't work," when it's actually a password or a security issue. And we'll show here how to correct for that and how to actually compensate and just get it up and running. So what we're going to do here is to show how easy it is to set up the 123 sync service. Just go to Tools, the background processing, and it says Install Background Sync Windows Service. Just click on that, and it will ask you, give you the username and the password. So if you enter the password, click Enter, it will register install the sync service, and it will check whether it exists or not, and then tell you whether it's running or not. And it will tell you 123 sync service is running. So it also then asks you whether you want to run it every 30 minutes or 60 minutes. It gives you a couple of options. We like it running every 30 minutes, so we say save. So let's just check out on our sync service. We can go into the background processor and look here, and we can just check, and there it is, the sync service. It's actually running now, and the sync service will basically just because I entered the correct password, I had the right permissions, it will just come up and run, and that's the easiest way to do. So now you're running, and then another item you can actually look at is on your system tray. There's an icon, and that will show you it's our system tray background manager. You can right click on it, and we'll tell you when the next sync is. You can run it now, or you can actually open the sync log. Is it running at the moment? And it's actually not running. It's not doing anything at the moment. So basically it just stopped, and we can go in here and you say, okay, let's go run it now, just to check, and then you can right click and then open the sync log. And then it just told you, okay, it just ran the sync log, it just completed. It just ran everything, and that's it. Wow, that was easy. So let's just look at a couple of things. So what happens if you install the sync service and then you go to the services screen and the sync service hasn't started? Well, that means the password you entered is incorrect. So the password for the username that you're using is incorrect. And you'll have something like this. The password is incorrect, so you're not able to run the sync service. So what you need is put in the correct password. You go put in the password that you're running for the user that you install it as. Click on Apply, and that will apply the password. In many systems, you'll actually get a prompt, and after that, you just start the service, and then the service will start, and now you're running in the background, and it will sync in the background. So what happens on this other scenario, where you install the sync service, and then you click on the Windows servers, and there is nothing listed? You can go into the action and just try to refresh all the tasks and see if it's listed, and the 123 sync service is not listed. That means you have no permissions to create a sync service on your machine. That's something that you have to deal with your systems manager or your Windows expert. You have no permissions, and I'll explain in a minute on what the command we use to create the sync service, and you can actually create it yourself manually. But if we automatically try to do this, you have no permissions to do it. And then it's either your security software, your system manager, somebody has to fix your system in order for you to be able to create a sync service. So how would you manually create a sync service? The name of the file that is our sync service is called 123.sync.service.exe. It resides on nowhere else but on the 123-sync.2014, which is our installation folder. So you call this file. To create this file as a service, all you do is call sc, which is service create or service control, create 123sync svc, and then just give it the path. Bin path equals the C program files 123.sync.service.exe. This will create the service on the service panel for you. If this, when you run it from the command line, if this fails, it will give you an error. And that error is going to be related to your setup, to your security mechanism, whatever. But this is a manual way of you bypassing our automatic ways, because this is what we do. And if you can do it manually and find out the error, it will give you the error, which us as a software program lying on top of Windows, we cannot find out what the error is. Also, to delete a service, since we on the creation, you just stop the service, sc stop, and then just sc delete. So that will remove the service from the service list in Windows. Just remember that the 123sync service, the executable, is named 123.sync.service.exe. So you can manually implement it and create it, as well as remove it manually, or you can use the processes that we provide. So if you have created the services manual, the 123sync services manual, you go to Tools and then go to the Windows Services. And when you create it manually, you will find that it's not started or anything like that. So now that you created a service, you need to look at the properties of it. And the properties in general will be manual. You got to set it to automatic, and you need to set up the correct login for the account. And this is the account that you log in. So in our case, it's a test, and we put the password. We apply. It accepted the password, and then just say OK. So now if you start, it will just take off and will start fine. If it hangs, that means you got the incorrect password. So you have to remove the service or reboot the system and then start putting the new password again. But you please put in the right password and the server will just run just fine. So what happens if you go in the service and you put in an incorrect username and password? That has happened to us. So how do you find out if you have the incorrect username and password? So we go to Tools, you go to Background Processing. We have a timing and log settings. And here we have two logs. One is the standard processing log, and the other one is the services log. If you click here on this log, it will show you that the services, when it's scheduled and what's happening. That means that the service has been correctly started and it's actually running properly. That means it's logging in with the right username and the correct password, and it's running. If this log is empty, that means you got the incorrect username and incorrect password. So go back to the service, stop it, and enter the correct username and password. When this happens, if we see that we have incorrect username and password, or we go to our Tools background, we just uninstall the service. And now the service is uninstalled, and then we reinstall it, and when we reinstall it, it will ask us for the username and password. And we make sure that here it will show us that the correct username to use for this installation, and then just all you have to do is enter the correct password. And that's it. Now the service is up and running. So after all this, what if the sync does not work? We've never seen it not work at our site, but we've seen at the other sites where it just won't work. And the symptoms we've seen is the Outlook is the transport. So they're using Outlook as a transport. And while running interactive as a user, it works fine, but when it run from the Windows service, it fails to mount the folders when running as a service. So our resolution for these is run it as a system tray process. And the system tray process effectively runs as a user on the system. The thing about this is the user cannot log out. But if you're running in a terminal service environment, just leave it logged in and it will continue syncing. So to run 123 sync as a system tray, first you need to go to the tools, background processing, just uninstall the background sync Windows service. Just uninstall it. It will remove all the items, make sure that nothing is on the system tray, and it's uninstalled. So just go to Tools, Background Processing, Install System Tray Sync Process. It will ask you for the frequency. Say yes, and then it basically now is running on the system tray. After you do that, just make sure that you have one setting that's set, which is called the Run 123 Sync from System Tray. That will run it from the system tray. So you can set that up, and then just can look here. It offers you the same tools as before: timing settings, open sync log, and when you want to schedule the next sync. But what it does, it runs from the system tray as a current logged in user. So by doing this, you can just set it all up, so when you log in, the 123 sync will start. We also install on the start, on the startup menu, we install the 123 sync background, so when you start the system, it will automatically start syncing. This concludes our tutorial on how to run 123 sync in the background using Windows services as well as the system tray. We have video tutorials on our website that show how to run it from the desktop, as well as to how to use Windows Task Manager to run the different tasks of 123 sync. For more information, please contact 123sync.com or contact your integrator.